The Furon V7 is one of my favorite speed boots on the market, and it just got a pretty decent upgrade with the Furon version 8. So this comes in a regular New Balance box, the all red with, of course, the white New Balance logoing. This is actually quite a small box comparatively. I'll actually bring in, this is kind of funny. This is what a normal Nike box looks like. So it's there versus there. Kind of interesting, but hey, less cardboard and less waste. Love that. So for the new Furon version 8, I went with a 9.5 US. Now that is the same size as this pair in blue, which was actually the launch colorway of the version 7 Plus. And this is a boot that fits sort of in that interesting in-between space between like a 9 and a 9.5. So I actually went with a 9.5 because the length actually fits me a lot better in the 9.5. So I'm gonna assume that the last, even though it's a different sole plate, hopefully the last is the same. And so we went with a 9.5, a D, which is a medium, a 2E is obviously like a wide shoe, and then this is a UK 9 and a Euro 43. Now this is in a colorway that I think is gonna be exceptionally cool looking. So here we go. Oh my days. Yes. Okay, look at that. Very nice. I'm a huge fan of this colorway. As I've always said on this channel, white with accent colors is always a really, really nice looking football boot. I don't mind this little graphic here. It looks like lightning bolts. It looks like almost ferns or something you'd see in like the Hawaiian airport or something. And then the N, the placement of the N is kind of cool. It's a little bit different. Obviously we had it here and it's a little bit further forward. And there's some pretty interesting changes that I want to go through with this model. So let's take the other pair out of the box, or other boot out of the box. There you go, the right shoe. And there isn't any string bag that come with New Balance boots in general. I'm not sure why they do that. I'm not super fussed. I wish there was, but oh well. It's not something to complain about necessarily, even though it does make the unboxing experience a little bit less exciting because it's only the boots in there. But that's just my own personal preference. Very, very soft. So this is a full hypoknit upper, just like the previous generation as well. You have full and half gauge knit zones. So basically that's just different densities of knit throughout the entire upper. So certain places will be a little bit less dense than other places. And that will give you sort of that, I know other companies have talked about this, but sort of that zonal stretch. So certain areas will stretch a little bit more or mold a little bit better than other areas. Now you don't have any more cord out canopy, which is this little thing right here. So this little canopy action was essentially to pull this midfoot, internal part of the midfoot over and across so that you got really nice lockdown, despite the laces only being about 4 lace loops deep. You get a couple, at least a little bit more, well, I guess it's more lace loops, but it's not any deeper necessarily in this new generation, maybe just ever so slightly, but you don't have that lace loop instead, or the cord canopy, excuse me. Instead, you do have this hypoknit or this exposed hypoknit here to make it more of that mono sock construction. So one of the things I am a little bit concerned about with the new Furon is the lack of lockdown. Now, I would say that for a speed boot in general, the previous generation wasn't the best for lockdown by any stretch of the imagination. The new one, I'm hoping with this slightly improved knit material, this slightly improved hypoknit material will give you maybe a little bit better lockdown, but I don't think the Furon is meant to be that all-out crazy locked-in speed boot experience. It really is meant to be the super, super comfortable sock-like lightweight speed boot that you expect from the New Balance brand. So as opposed to something like the Puma Ultra, actually, that's a great comparison. This is obviously another speed boot with a really aggressive tooling, just like the New Balance boot does, but this one takes a whole kind of different approach with a midfoot and a upper material that isn't a knit-based, it's more of a mesh-based synthetic material, and this isn't gonna stretch really at all, whereas this kind of will. This will mold and sort of stretch really nicely to your foot, similar to the last generation, whereas this one is much more locked in feeling. And again, I haven't tried these on yet, so I'm sort of trying to compare them to the previous generation a little bit, just to give you an idea of two different philosophies when going towards a speed boot. Now, in terms of the offset and lacing system, this was very similar and pretty much the identical spot as last generation as well. And again, with the lack of that canopy, it remains to be seen kind of whether there's going to be any sort of ramifications on lockdown or anything as well. But overall, again, very, very soft. And in comparison to the previous model, this one is broken in, sure, but this one does feel slightly more structured, at least right now, straight out of the box. And so I'm hoping that maybe they haven't added any thickness to the upper, but they have maybe added just slightly more structure so that the shape and the fit is very similar, but which is already excellent, but that upper just doesn't stretch all that much. You also have slightly redesigned heel area as well, so you've got a little bit less, how would you say, the padding that sits where kind of my fingers are here, right on the back above the bottom part of your ankle, is a little less aggressive. It's a perforated suede material you can see in bright yellow there, and it is pretty soft. It is really nice, and that was one piece of the boot of the previous generation that actually a lot of people complained about. It's one thing that I think New Balance hasn't quite gotten perfect yet. So I am hopeful with this and then the eventual new Tequila that will come out in the next, I would guess, maybe month or two, maybe 2 months. Hopefully the new Tequila also sorts the heel area, because I actually found more irritation in the Tequila than I did the Furon, but that's because the Furon actually fits the shape of my foot just ever so slightly better than the Tequila does. I don't know why that is, because both boots have a similar width to them, and although the Tequila is technically a little bit wider in the forefoot, the general shape of this boot actually fit me a lot better, particularly because it just feels a little more anatomical compared to the Tequila, but that was just, again, anatomical from my foot. It might not be the same for you as well. So hopefully this heel area is just ever so slightly better and removes some of that pinching that we got on previous generations. The next piece is this new outsole, which is a 12 stud configuration with some new T-shaped studs. So they've gone for the chevron stud here in the middle of the boot and some chevron studs in the heel area, and then they've got some T-shaped studs as opposed to a fully chevron stud base. And the new sole plate, I gotta tell you what, is pretty impressive. This is very snappy. It's super aggressive looking. It's got a ton of snapback, and they've added this new speed control stud, which you can see the logoing right here. And that's this stud right here, this T-shaped stud. And basically the reason it's facing backwards, supposedly it's supposed to help you stop a little bit better. I'm not really sure if that's going to be the case, because obviously you brake with your heel area. So if you're running up and on your toes, and then when you brake, you kind of press the ground with your heel, and this stud, single stud, I don't know why. Yeah, anyway, it's a little marketing. I'm hopeful that it works, but I wouldn't buy this I wouldn't buy this football boot because they have an extra stud, put it that way. It is one of those things, it's one of those marketing things, and it's one of those, it's how do I put it? What's another example of something like this? The carbon fiber sole plate in the Under Armour Shadow series is kind of like this. It's like they spent all this R&D money and you can kind of bend the boots in half, basically. So it's not as responsive as you would maybe think it would be, and it's a little gimmicky in some respects. That's, I think, what this is. Look, maybe it helps me stop on a dime, but I really don't think that this is going to make that big of a difference. But it's cool, and we'll test it out in the later on in this video in the playtest version. You also get a little sticker here that says the metallic finish is subject to wear, but the boot will still perform to the best of your abilities. This is one of my favorite stickers on any, there you go, hopefully you can see that. This is one of my favorite stickers on any pair of football boots because they really point out like, hey, it's you, it's the player, it's not the boots. And that is so true. On the instep, we get the same really nice Infinigrip lining on the sock liner, which is essentially, it's like a suede material feeling. It's kind of like a micro suede, microfiber material, but then you've got this really nice, I'm trying to think, hopefully I can get some macro shots of this, but basically there's these really interesting like weave like that go this direction. And so if I rub my hands, I'll show you on the overhead camera. If I rub my finger that way forward, There's a little bit of grip, but it's not super crazy. It's not a ton more than any other insole, if you will. But then if I go side to side, it's like massively, massively grippy. So what's kind of cool about this, and again, I'm just throwing it out there, it might be a really interesting extra little grip element for lateral movements. So that's kind of when most people get the most slippage, I guess, is when you're cutting side to side. So that's kind of nice. And I'm really hopeful that this is a piece of the boot that we get to experience in a little bit as well. So players like Bukayo Saka, Sadio Mane, Michelle Cooper, and Eberechi Eze are going to be wearing these. So that's super cool. Definitely a boot that I think I most recognize on Saka, simply because he's plays for my favorite team, but also because he's sort of the face of the Furon now. These weigh in around 175, 176 grams, which is right around that 6.2 ounce mark. So very similar to the previous generation and one of the lightest speed boots on the market. But none of that tech stuff really matters if these don't actually fit that well, and they have shifted around the shape that was already absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, let's jump on pitch and see how these perform. All right, guys, out at the field here, and we've got the Furon V8. I'm very excited about this pair of football boots. I think this is going to be a wonderful addition to my rotation. Now, as I said before, these are a 9.5 US, similar to the previous generation. So let's get these on feet straight away. Here we go. Oh my days. Yeah, these are going to be awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So straight out of the box, and again, these are not the wide fit version. You can get the 2E model, which is something that I would suggest probably for players who do want that extra little bit of width, but obviously who don't fit in the regular width edition. The other thing I would say is, even if you are going to get the 2E, I would still go up half a size, because again, when I talk about sizing, I'm talking about the length of the football boot, not necessarily the width of the football boot. Obviously, they're correlated in some respects with certain brands and certain models, but you get the idea, right? So go for the size on the length first. That's your actual boot size, and then you can figure out what the best width for you is. So there you go. Boots look fabulous on feet, in my opinion. These look really, really nice. New sole plate feels pretty grounded, to be honest. These might actually be a boot that feels too aggressive on AG, but this is what the playtest part of the video is for. So let's get these rocking and rolling straight away. We'll just get through here. Yeah, feeling good, feeling really good. I love that little bit of extra something that this sole plate has now. It's a little bit stiffer than previous gen, and it just feels a little more balanced in general. The other thing too that they've updated is that hypo knit upper, and although I would say it feels a little more seamless just because you don't have that cored out canopy kind of over the top, so it does very much feel like just a one-piece kind of sock upper, like a Vapor 16, GX2, even the Tequila, or what the Tequila used to be. These feel much more kind of holistic, but the upper doesn't feel all that different from the previous gen. So if you're looking for just those minor upgrades, I would definitely go with this one. Or if you like the previous generation, just try to find the previous gen on discount or something. But I love it. We are starting off really strong. I really like the way these fit. They look amazing as well, in my opinion. I definitely think this is one of those boots that has a generally a pretty nice shape to it, and especially a nice graphic profile. Now, maybe those kind of flame type looking things on the inside look a little bit weird. I don't know, this particular colorway is beautiful, I think. And the new, where the N is now, kind of looks dope, I think. I reckon it'd be kind of cool if they put the N right on the striking surface. That would be kind of sick, almost make it look like it's got grip elements or something. But yeah, man, overall, weaving through the cones and stuff, feels really good so far. And touch on the ball, like especially, just like this, very seamless. It's just a really, really lightweight, knit, no BS speed boot. And if that's what you're looking for and you don't like grip elements, the Furon is the way to go. It's very good so far, very, very good. The other thing too is this takes very much like a kind of a traditional speed boot outlook on everything. It's kind of what traditional speed boots have been the last couple of years in terms of like what the average has been with the really, really aggressive tooling. I don't have too many issues right now with how the sole plate feels. Of course, I'm not going to have as much pivot power, but I think they usually do an AG model of this as well at some point. God, this just feels so good. I mean, you guys know this. I'm a huge fan of the Furon in general, especially the new generation. Got to turn my watch on. If I don't track it, it never happened. So yeah, I think, again, Furon for me has always been a really good boot because it's very comfortable, right? So, you know, doing any sort of like movements like this, any sort of like dribbling and shooting, this has always been a boot that I've really enjoyed playing in, particularly even the 7 and the 7 Plus. And now with the 8, nothing's really changed. I really like these. So yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about some downsides too, because I want to make sure this video isn't completely like, well, I love them, so you should love them. All right, we're just gonna be doing a little bit of kind of shooting warm-up / passing. I didn't bring my my bloody wall bounce thing, unfortunately. So literally all I'm gonna do here, touch, and kind of pass / whip it into the bottom corner here, or the top corner, we'll see. Most likely the bottom corner, at least for these first few. But I really am trying to get a sense of what the striking surface is like. Again, I'm gonna imagine it's gonna be very, very similar to the previous gen. Yeah, very similar, very, very similar. And that's a great thing. I think if you, again, as I said before, if you're looking for a boot that is very comprehensive in terms of just the seamlessness with which you can strike a ball, with which you can dribble, and there's no grip elements or distractions, this is definitely a boot that I would recommend for you. So who is the Furon not for? The Furon is not for the person who either needs or really wants a grip element in their football boots, right? So they want a striking experience like this, especially one if I kind of turn the corner and I want as much possible whip on that ball, and I want that little extra percentage of grip that I'm not gonna get with better and better and better technique. I think this is not the boot for you, although I do think it does have incredible striking surface properties, especially because the off-center lacing system is really good. That's one thing that I love striking in these, but if you're somebody who's like, I want a Predator with a little bit of grip element, or I want a GX or a Vapor with grip element, then maybe this one isn't for you, and that's totally okay. But again, it does all of the striking surface things perfectly minus that grip element. So if you want a grip element, maybe not the Furon. So the other thing the Furon is probably not right for is, let's see, make sure I'm coming out the right way. There we go. Is the person who wants the most lockdown. See what I mean by striking surface? It's so seamless, man. I love these boots. I really enjoy the Furon. But the person who wants the most aggressive locked in sensation in their football boots, that is something that the Furon probably won't provide, which again is one of those things that you have to decide for yourself. The Furon's gonna be, I think, objectively a little more comfortable than an Alpha 2, but the Alpha 2 is gonna be, I wouldn't say like significantly, but kinda significantly a little bit more aggressive and definitely more locked in. These ones don't have, I'm not slipping around, particularly with grip socks, but on planting, right? So if I come up here and I take that touch to the side and I plant, I feel really good, but over time, having played in the previous generation a lot, it does start to a little bit overstretch. And so whereas the Alpha isn't going to stretch, right? The knit is going to mold and stretch, whereas the Alpha synthetic material stays that shape basically forever. And so you're always going to have this insane locked in sensation. And it's not just with the Alpha, right? Like I think a Vapor and this are about on par in terms of like lockdown, whereas, you know, the Alpha 2, I think, is a little more aggressive, and even the regular F50, because of its synthetic upper, has like more lockdown than these ones, even though I would argue these ones, for most people, are gonna be way more comfortable and enjoyable to play in. One thing I am noticing already is the width of the boot, similar to the previous generation, is definitely feeling a little tight on my feet. My midfoot is the widest. These are not the 2E, but I wanna make sure that you guys see some of the testing in a non-2E boot. I might try to get the 2E boot at some point, but we'll see. Ooh, could be better there. But I think, again, width-wise, these are one of the wider speed boots on the market, especially if you take the time to break them in, and you know, the knit actually stretches quite a bit because there's not like a external or internal proper structure. But I do think that, ooh, this isn't gonna be the boot for, isn't gonna be the boot for everybody. So in my opinion, where does this stand as far as comfort performance? Again, this is the first training session with these bad boys, so take that with a grain of salt. Sole plates, excellent. It's absolutely an upgrade. Oh, let's go back around. But, there we go. It is an upgrade. I'll take one more. It is an upgrade over the previous generation. Upper feels like an upgrade, although I do think that it would have been nice to maybe have one or two more lace holes sort of further down the boot with an exposed knit. So you have the ability to get a little bit wider, but also to have a little bit more of a break-in process. And so there we go. Oh, yes, gets in. So that's where I would kind of put these. It is an improvement. I like these better. And also, I stand by my comment earlier in terms of if you can find the previous generation for a pretty significant discount, that's a pretty good deal because those boots are excellent, even though these are a little bit more structured, a little bit better sole plate. And kind of, yeah, they've definitely Mizuno-ified their process, it looks like, at least with the Furon, which is awesome because those subtle integrations, subtle improvements make for such a better playing and more consistent playing experience. All right, a little bit of free kick action. Again, shooting with the ball, amazing. Passing, that first drill, like the little warm-up, feels amazing. This fourth one, I will do the crossbar challenges, which is back by popular demand. I know this is now a different video format, but we are gonna do the crossbar challenge at the end just because it's cool. All right, here we go. Little free kick action. Nice. If that goes through the wall, that's a decent shot. Here we go, line it up. Again, I love the striking surface of these. The Furon, I'm a little, I wouldn't say these are the best speed boots on the market. A little bit better, but they are an absolute peach to play in just because of how comfortable they are. And when you look at a boot, and again, I would probably recommend only playing on FG with these. I feel okay if you feel confident, like if you've played in, take that fourth one. I want a better shot. If you've played in Vapor FGs, or even honestly Alpha FGs, you'll be totally fine playing on AG with these guys. You're gonna lose warranty and stuff, and that I obviously don't recommend because if they break, you can't return them. But, oh no, not having it today, that's all right. But at the end of the day, it is really about what fits your foot the best, what you like. But I would probably, if you're gonna play majority on AG, I would probably just recommend getting the AG model because it's gonna be probably amazing. And of course, back by popular demand, little right foot, left foot. Here we go, crossbar challenge. Oof, feels good though, feels good. The outside of my feet are starting to hurt a little bit. Get in. Oh, that's so close. Are starting to hurt a little bit, but I'll talk about that in the outro. All right, so concluding the playing experience in And initial review, initial playtest of the Furon V8. This is going to be a very, very fun boot to play in when I'm able to break them in. That is one thing that I probably would have gone for the wide variation. It is hurting me right on this outside area. That being said, I do have a really wide midfoot, so with the previous generation, I was able to get the normal width version. It took me maybe a little bit more break-in time than necessary, if you will, but I wanted the absolute tightest possible fit once I had the boots broken in. So for me, it's worth the extra pain of breaking the boot in terms of getting later down the road that extra little bit of lockdown and performance. This is a very, very fun boot to play in. It's one of the lightest on the market. I didn't really notice this speed control stud. That being said, I wasn't doing a ton of like deceleration movements, which I think is what this is sort of meant for, if you will. But in terms of the sole plate, way more responsive feeling. It feels excellent on feet. The upper is super, super soft already. Again, just need to break in this outside kind of lateral portion of the boot in the midfoot. The toe box feels excellent, and overall, this new construction is really nice. Does it have less lockdown than the previous model? I don't think so. I don't think that it's going to be a massive hindrance to your playing experience and to just the way that you operate on pitch if you go for this new generation. Particularly coming from the previous model, I think you're going to find that this is the Morelia Neo 3 to Neo 4. It's just that much better. I think the sole plate is significantly better, and that's one of the major reasons to upgrade to something like this. If you're playing on firm ground, this new sole plate is going to be absolutely kick-ass. It's going to be so wicked. And then this upper is going to provide all the things that you like from the previous generation, including a little bit more of an updated heel area as well, because I know that's something that a lot of players really struggled with in the previous generation, getting blisters and stuff. So again, overall, Furon version 8, first impressions, playtest, and review. These are awesome. Hypo knit's great. It's one of the best knits on the market, in my opinion. Really comfortable, really soft. And these are a fantastic speed boot for the money with some really, really cool tech and stuff in them. So hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll leave a link to the WeFoot grip socks down below where you can get 20% off with the discount code NOAH20. And I will see you guys in the next video.